Ever bought a cheap outdoor camera that looked good on the box, only to find the picture turned into a blurry mess the first night you needed it? I've seen enough of those budget setups where the motion alerts are a joke, the night vision looks like a flashlight on a fogged window, and the whole system falls apart the moment the weather gets a little windier. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. That regretful feeling is exactly why I spent a few days comparing a handful of 4K PTZ rigs before I decided to take a closer look at the REOLINK 4K PTZ security camera system. The first question most of us ask is whether a $200+ kit is really worth it compared to a $200 plug-and-play stick-up cam. The biggest risk with the cheaper side is the set-and-forget promise that usually ends up being Satan-tweakers. The REOLINK bundle promises plug-and-play PoE, auto-tracking, and a 4 TB NVR that records 24/7, which sounds like the exact antidote to that risk. If you're the type of buyer who hesitates because you've burned money on low-resolution gear that never caught the face of a trespasser, the question is whether the features here actually translate into smoother, more reliable coverage. Let's talk about the installation experience, because that's where a lot of the regret stems from. The cameras use power over Ethernet, so you run a single Cat5e or higher cable for both power and data. REOLINK ships with a fairly straightforward PoE switch and a quick start guide that gets the NVR online in under an hour if you have a basic knowledge of networking. There are a few menu steps assigning IP addresses, naming each camera, and setting the auto-tracking zones, but you don't have to wade through 1,000 settings to get a live feed. For a homeowner with a small yard or a shop owner who wants perimeter monitoring, that level of friction is manageable. For a total tech newbie, you might want a professional installer. What makes a PTZ system useful is how the camera actually tracks moving subjects. And this REOLINK unit uses a hybrid zoom that combines optical 4 with a digital 1.5 boost, giving you a total of 6. In practice, that means you can zoom in on a person walking the driveway without losing too much clarity, and the auto-tracking algorithm will keep the subject centered as they move across the field of view. I ran a few scenarios: someone approaching the gate, a stray cat darting near the side of the house, and a delivery driver unloading a package. The camera locked onto the moving objects within a second, and the split-screen, dual view let me watch the wide-angle perspective and the zoomed-in frame side by side on my phone. That's a real advantage over a static dome cam that would have required you to manually scroll the footage later. Low-light performance is where many PTZ cameras stumble, and it's a legitimate concern for anyone counting on nighttime alerts. The REOLINK sensor is a 1/2.8 8MP chip with IR LEDs that claim up to 30 meters of illumination. In my tests on a cloudy night, the image retained enough color to differentiate a person's clothing, and the autofocus kept the face reasonably sharp, though there's a slight soft edge when the subject is near the limit of the IR range. If you need pinpoint facial recognition in total darkness, you might want a dedicated low-light unit. But for general property monitoring, the result is far better than the grainy black and white feeds you see on budget cams. A common complaint with PTZ rigs is the wobble that shows up when the motor pans or tilts, especially in windy conditions. The REOLINK housing uses a reinforced metal frame that seems to dampen the movement, so the video stays steady even when the wind is picking up. I placed one camera on a roof over a small farm, and after a gusty afternoon the footage remained smooth, with no jerky jumps that would throw off motion detection algorithms. Speaking of detection, the smart detection feature in the NVR software can differentiate between people, vehicles, and animals. When the system flags a person entry, you get an instant push notification on your phone, and you can jump straight to the relevant clip without waiting through an hour of empty video. That's a huge time saver for busy professionals who need to know what's happening in real time. However, the detection settings are not as granular as some higher-end AI platforms. You can't create custom zones that ignore a neighbor's frequent dog runs without also risking missing a true intruder. If you need very fine-tuned rules, you might have to pair the system with a separate AI service or accept a few occasional false alarms. Now, who should actually consider buying this REOLINK bundle? If you own a medium-sized property, run a small storefront, or manage a remote cabin, and you want reliable 4K coverage without the hassle of buying individual cameras and an external recorder, this kit hits a sweet spot. The auto-tracking and dual-view layout are great for hobbyists who enjoy setting up a home surveillance theater. And